Recorded June 24th, 2024. Good afternoon, Ray. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing it? I love the intro every time, and it's always it's always a good time when I hear your voice telling me what day it is, what episode it is. Let's do it.
Hey, got a face for radio. That's how they say it, right? A face for podcasting. They go with it from there. Hey, it's Monday. You know why Monday's the best day of the week for me?
Why is that?
Because I've had 2 days away from my coworkers.
Oh dear, my goodness.
Nah, it's just I'm one of those contrarians. When everybody says it's bad, I say it's good, right? So I'm like, yeah, Monday's
I
all
think
right
you're a
with me.
sweetheart at heart, and I think it's 2 days away, but then you finally get to come back into the fold and have that community that you've built. Because you know everyone. It doesn't matter what function they're in, where they've been. You just know everyone. So I beg to differ. I think it's because you get to hang out with the crew again.
Yeah, well, sure. Thank you for the kind words. The Venmo is on its way. The Cash App is on its way. There you go. That's it. Hey, but it is Monday, and actually, that's a pretty good Monday for me. I had some stuff that been sitting on my plate, admin stuff, and I said, man, quit making excuses, buckle down and get it done. So I got a lot of writing done, um, and some documentation done, some cleanup. I did the the this application shortcut that you can do to just get your mailbox clean out, shift delete. And so if anybody's looking for me, send it back and we'll go from there, right?
That is a
Um,
tactic. No, no, some folks do it. They're just like, "Listen, I've been out of office or I just have too many, messages to sift through. I'm gonna do an inbox 0, and if it's really that important, folks will reach out again. It'll come. It'll materialize." So that is actually, a technique that some folks use.
yeah, well, I sort of exaggerated with shift delete. I got a little rule that says get it from this point to this point
Mhm.
because I
Mhm.
still want to, in deleted items. I'm like, okay, let me
Mhm.
go look it up, right? And like, okay, but I'm, pretty good. Didn't get any running in. My knee was sort of hurting. Read a bunch of tech books, some forensic stuff, and what else did I do? Uh, Finally got that other firewall in my lab. Cleaned up some AD stuff. Uh, Worked on my car, fixed my bike, did some of this, did some of that.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
What
And
do you
real work, you know,
for so as a passion or like when you say working on your car, you have like a hobby car that you're kind of
mhm,
tweaking and okay,
mhm.
nice. What kind of
70, 1978 Fiat Spider convertible.
okay.
It was on
What's it
blocks. It was a big old hornet nest in it when I saw it in someone's garage, and I battled the hornets to the death. And then the black widow spiders that had made a nest up inside the wheel well got it towed about 4 years ago. And
seriously? Are you because
yeah,
I'm very literal. So if you tell me that because like my dad is also he moonlights as an exterminator. So if you tell me that there were insects in the vehicle, I will believe like are you like legit? Or
yeah,
is that oh,
bugs.
okay?
It's just been
No,
sitting
hornet
up.
like no, but they're no joke. Like hornets
Yeah,
are like serious business.
yeah, uh, they hurt, but
They
just man, insect venom really doesn't bother me
You're
too much.
impervious. Okay,
Well,
all
nobody
right.
impervious because a spider bit me on the leg, and it's their venom is neurotic, so it sort of kills the stuff. But spider died way
No,
worse and
I'm
painful.
neurotic. They're necrotic. So that
Necrotic, yeah, flesh killing. Neurotic necrotic, I don't know. But other than
I
that,
am
what
a
else?
neurotic spider. That
That
spider
should
that
be your
bit you.
nickname. That sounds like an
Neurotic
APT
spider. Yeah.
neurotic spider. Yeah, that's a good one. There, you write that one down. Let me write that one down. I'll get you a shirt
I
made
love
for
that
that.
you co-sign that too. You're like, "That's it? We're done here. Neurotic spider is her tagline." Great.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so I worked on a car, did some tuning to carburetor, put a new Weber carburetor on it, and was trying to get all that stuff right. So, what did people do at the age of YouTube? And a phone is your most powerful thing. Before you take something off, take a picture, get in and everything, get your little magnet dish to hold your screws and everything, because stuff inadvertently falls down. And one habit that I learned is that throw you a piece of white anything up under your car. It doesn't matter. A sheet,
Uh,
something. So
uh-huh.
when it falls, your eye sees the contrast to find what you're looking for. You can get up on the ground and go. No, I was doing that, nothing special.
Wait, do you have like a collection of cars that you've like refurbished or like brought back to life?
Yeah, but they're gone. They're sold. I had a '69 Chevy
Okay.
50 SS Rally, '66 Mustang Fastback, um, the '78 Fiat Spider, and I can't think of the other truck that we had. It was it's either '67 or '68 Chevy. Take a
Okay.
block here. That one, man, that would, oh God, pain. That's all I did. What about you?
Ha ha ha. I'm just trying to keep my head above water, but okay. I'll let there's one calamity after another. Everything's all good. I had some like family drama. My mother, I'm an only child, but I try to be a good daughter, and so taking care of my mom a little bit. Uh, work is going really well. Trying to put together the fireside chats for Defender experts for the rest of the year. So, getting the actual Defender experts to show up and present, kind of like very much like an Ask Me Anything, but like a 30-minute teaching module. And you led that. It was very, very successful. If you want to come back and do it again, love to have you, Ed. So work is great. Family stuff is addressed, smoothing out some wrinkles there. Signed up for my cyber ops classes, kicking off in a few weeks, so that's exciting. But lots of stuff, but not as thrilling as your like 2-day weekend event there. So good for you. I guess I gotta pick up the pace, Ed. I gotta maybe I can like refurbish some kazoos or something. I don't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It grounds you. We work with our mind so much that if you don't do something that's menial or just mundane, you'll never turn your mind off. And oh, I forgot. And then we got to get to our guest. The drain pump in my washer went out. Called the guy. Like $300. I said, "Pfft." I mean, I got on YouTube, bought that drain pump for $25. Got on YouTube. It took me 2 hours. I watched the video, so I found one I could follow. Took the washing machine apart. Really, washing machines are made of nothing. Interesting how them drums float front and lower, and then I put it right back together, works like that. So I like
Okay,
doing stuff. Yeah, you
no
got to
big
be able to turn. Yeah, y- these people that are coming up can't turn a wrench these days. So you got to be able to turn a wrench a little bit,
that
a little bit. You got to be able to turn a wrench.
that is true.
So we have our guests that are coming on. I think a lot of our listeners and viewers are going to recognize the name because the name is sort of like a is 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 like a verb, a noun, a pronoun, a little bit of everything. You can stick it in there, right? And I'm interested. I've worked with the product, um, integrated it with this particular solution. It does what it says it's going to do. Actually, and it gives you some auxiliary learning too. So once you hear who our guests are, you're going to get it. So tonight we have individuals from the company Cribl. If you haven't heard of Cribl, you're going to get a pleasant surprise. Listen to what they do, and it's much more than a generic, just description of what people say their product is. So, without that being said, we're going to get our guests on. I'm going to add them on. I'd like to welcome Cam and Aldo from Cribl. Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you?
Good
Doing great.
afternoon. Doing great. Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you for coming on. I mean, I don't know what time zones you're in, but it takes some commitment to come on and do stuff during happy hour or
Yeah.
happy whatever it is. But
5 o'clock somewhere, right?
That's true.
always somewhere.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So we got both ends of the country represented, West Coast and East Coast. So
Nice.
we're well represented over here.
Okay. So I'd like to start off with introductions. You two can choose who goes first, A before K or K after whatever. I I before you after C. But introduce yourself, a little bit about yourself. You can go as far back in your history before you got to Cribl or not, and then what you do at Cribl, and then we'd like to know what Cribl is and Cribl does. Our listeners, the people demand to know.
Mhm.
Awesome. Cam, why don't you go?
Sounds good. So Chamomere, I have had quite the journey through the IT world. Uh, Back in the day, I actually worked at a pizza place and delivered pizza over to a data center. Didn't know what a data center was, this is early 90s. And they said they did industrial internet, and this was a company called Digex. And from there, I handed in a resume, and one of my pizza delivery runs, and was an IT support person for I don't know how many years. Then got into the whole website group and learned Windows and Linux and Solaris, and then learned a little bit of automation with a company called Blade Logic, and then journeyed over to Splunk, where I met the co-founders of Cribl, and now here I am at Cribl and running the technical alliances part of the organization.
Technical alliances. All right. Good recap there. Aldo?
Awesome. Well, thanks again for having me. My name is Aldo Dosola. Been with Cribl a couple of years. I figure, people that have done some of the food service type stuff, whether you're delivering pizzas, I have indeed flipped burgers back when I was a teenager and such. I think it's a good background because you know how to take care of and service people. Whether they're into neurotic spiders or whatever they might be into. By the way, Edward, we have a Talk Cars channel. It's at Cribl that's very active. I think you would appreciate it. There's a lot of enthusiasts at Cribl. But I too knew the Cribl founders back at Splunk. Between Cam and myself, we've got somewhere north of 15 years of Splunk experience. During the formative years of the company. I joined there with 250 employees and I left with 3,000. And so, Cam, probably started about the same time and left with even more employees. So been here for 2 years prior. In between Splunk and Cribl, I was 4 years at HashiCorp. So I was there for the IPO, worked with them and helped build it out. And then left about a year after the IPO. And delighted to be here and excited to introduce you to, sounds like y'all know who Cribl is, but maybe not everyone listening on the podcast will.
All right. So we got the background. We got where you are now. We got a history where you came from. HashiCorp. Yeah, I cut my teeth on Terraform a little bit back in the day. So whoever wants to answer.
Well, do you know what a Cribl is?
I think it's that thing on Star Trek. Like they multiply and they fall out of the
That's a Cribl. Right? That's a Cribl.
Oh,
a Cribl with a T. Thank you.
Okay.
So what's Cribl?
So it is the name of the device that gold miners would use to pan for gold. They would dig it into the ground and get all the sand and sediment out of it and shake it, and then what would be left would be all the beautiful gold nuggets. And so we like to think that that's what we help our customers do with regard to the volumes of data they're contending with every day, so we just kind of decided to spell it a little bit more fun.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Now I'll ask it a different way. So I'll ask Cam. Cam, what's Cribl? See, like I didn't know that either. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I found that reference because I wanted to know where names came from. I said, oh yeah, you had all the gold rushers and the 49ers doing the thing, right? I thought it was a shield or something. I didn't know. So we know where the name came from. We know what an original Cribl was. If you were touting the Great Gold Rush. And it seems appropriate if you know what Cribl is. Let's assume that our listeners say, okay, I know what the name is. What is it you do?
Yeah, so I can help with that one. Being the recovering sales engineer of the call. So we basically take and help customers with their data management strategy. So a lot of them really don't understand when you ask them the question, what do they do? How do they collect data? How do they store data? How do they route data? How do they search this data? A lot of them have like a patchwork of capabilities out there. So they'll set up a way to collect data one way, and then they'll have a way to search and store data another way. And it's not a unified way of doing this. So what Cribl does is we actually give customers this choice and control of their data, specifically logs, metrics, and traces. So we can actually help them collect this data from any endpoint, any data that's being emitted, and then route, transform it so that when it lands in a destination that they want the data in, whether it be a SIM or log analytics platform or a data lake, we facilitate that capability and make it really easy. So choice, control, and ultimately, customers get back time, get back money, get back a lot of things that makes them really happy that they've instituted Cribl in their environment.
Yeah. So the tagline we use is data engine for IT and security, right? That's what we kind of call ourselves. And when you think about kind of the journey that many of our customers have been on, if you rewind the tapes back to call it 2011, when I started at Splunk and Cam was there as well, we were helping customers at Splunk at the time identify these different sources of data, log data, machine data, telemetry, and ingesting it and allowing for visibility and a full view of your security landscape to, emerge. But what's happened is over the last 10, 12 years, the data volumes have skyrocketed, right? But IT budgets have not. So what's happened is organizations could no longer afford to put all their data into Splunk or name your legacy SIEM. It can be any one of them, ArcSight, Curator, name it. So what they've had to do is park data around it and not have it all in for no other reason but really budget constraints. So they've created this silo mess in many cases on-prem, and now today they want to modernize. They want to look at, okay, what am I going to do next? And in many cases it's Microsoft, it's Sentinel, right? That's what they want to do. That is how they want to modernize. But they've got this big data mess on premise in many cases, and they're not just going to lift that and throw it over the wall. So they're trying to figure out, how do I handle all this variety, the volumes? And by the way, all this data has varying degrees of value tied to it as well, right? So sometimes, we joke around that some of this data that customers want to look at isn't valuable until it's really valuable, right?
Yes.
There's a breach or there's an outage or something that causes that data to suddenly be incredibly important. And so, we help customers on that journey. So it's partly a migration thing, helping them get from an on-premise world to a modernized security information event management world. Sometimes it's actually just augmentation too. They've already got something in Splunk Cloud, but they want to turn up a Sentinel environment alongside it. So I just said a lot, but it's a little bit of the background in terms of that explosion of data that customers are having to deal with, and our ability to help them optimize and get their arms around that problem.
Yeah, you would think that would have been a market. You said you used the term modernize. When I was covering Sentinel and helping customers with that, I really didn't use that word. I like normalize or rationalize, right? And rationalization of why you're doing these logs. I would always ask the question, why are you doing it?
But doesn't rationalization typically, isn't that a finessed way of saying like you're going to streamline and like be more cost effective?
Yeah, it's one of those ways. How do you use the word?
It's a
Wordplay.
charge to
Yeah, it's
you rationalize your
rationalize.
portfolio.
Good point. And I would say rationalization of what you are doing, which is give me a logical reason why you're doing this. And then I think the normalization would be, okay, I'm going to create a new normal on the way that we ingest data. So, and for companies like Cribl to come around and allow you to do that, that made sense, because some customers, they'll tell you, they were honest. We've always done it that way. I don't know why we do it this way. I inherited this thing,
Yeah.
and I don't have a reason to go ahead and tell someone of authority we should bring in less, right? Because people are going to go, why are you bringing in less, right? So, with the way Cribl has exploded, because I've had exposure to you guys for a long while. What is the growth and the adoption like? Because now I'm seeing it more, and if I include maybe some soft competitors, it's only because I'm trying to use some type of comparison in my head. But I've seen more people say this. Yeah, the open source stuff was cute. Elf stack, soft elf, that was cute. I gotta have me some SLAs. I gotta have some support. And I gotta have something that's I know is enterprise ready. Have you guys seen? Is that the reason you guys have seen such this massive explosion of customers and just your uptick? Because I
Yeah,
can't really go anywhere without hearing your name now.
well, I appreciate that, and I'll let Cam address kind of adoption. I will say that we just had our user conference, and it was fantastic. We actually made a couple of Microsoft announcements at the event, and what's exciting about it is we're solving real customer problems, and the product works incredibly well, and so we've got world-class NDE numbers, and what that means is net dollar expansion. So customers, once they buy it and put it into place, they come back for more because it works, and they're seeing an ROI on their investment, and they're seeing streamlining and normalization and all these things that we were just talking about. And so it's a lot of fun. So we looked at, we got to 100 million. We were the fourth fastest infrastructure ISV to get to 100 million in new ARR. So when you think about that, the only ones faster were Wiz, HashiCorp, and Snowflake. So anyone else, we were faster to 100 million. And it speaks to, again, just the need, and all those partners are all those ISVs I just mentioned are all partners of ours too, right? So Wiz is a big tech partner of ours, as is CrowdStrike, as is all of them, Snowflake, Databricks, all of them. So we sit in the middle of all these sources on one side and think destinations on the other. So the sources can be anything from syslog servers or CrowdStrike or different, telemetry. We take that in and then we can deliver it into, for example, Sentinel, right? And we do it in a very elegant way, and customers are able to get visibility into the data before they send it across, so they have better insights than they did prior, for sure. So from an adoption perspective, Cam, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah. So I think one of the points, if you can probably see behind me, a bunch of Legos. If you think about kind of putting together your strategy, it's like you can either go the open source route where you see this, Porsche or Voltron behind me.
Of course, you said Porsche. Of course, you said Porsche.
Of course, got you. And you can either put it together using a set of instructions with the proper Legos there ready to go, or you can go kind of the open source route and say, well, I can put this together myself, and I can figure out all the parts I need to put together, and you can absolutely go down that path. And the reason why there's a difference, and the reason why people go with Cribl and go with a solution that is ready-made, is we make it easy. We make it so that you have all your trainings online. It's all free. You have sandbox environments that you can easily pick together and put together and learn how the product works. And then the reason why I came to Cribl is because at the time, I have to be able to sell the product to myself. If I can't use the product, if I can't learn how it works, probably not going to do well selling it to other people. So right out of the gate, I learned the product. I saw how it worked. I was impressed with all the little things that they did right. And I said, this is where I want to go. And to your point, yes, you can use that little L in elk to get data in. But day two, it's a whole other problem. How do you manage scale? How do you manage all the proper insight or inputs and this and that? Cribl makes that day two and beyond way easier. So I think that's where you start to see why people actually adopt our product.
Yeah, I had to help someone with some elf stuff, and I bashing open source. I mean, open source definitely has a very important, place in just about anything information technology, right? And a lot of innovation, a lot of ideas come, and I know for a fact that a lot of companies that are for investor enhancement looked at open source like, yeah, we can monetize that if someone would put a wrapper around it and give support to it, which is the big thing, support and community building. With your product, you named a bunch of partners off and being able to do these things. And I think you guys are probably successful because of you take a very specific need and want, and it's not rocket science. And I know rocket science is right, so no pun intended. And you do it well, and you don't try to. How did I explain to someone? They were saying something about your product. I said, well, what you're trying to do with open source is sort of like going to Cheesecake Factory. They have so much stuff, it can't be good. And I'm back to Cheesecake Factory. I'm just saying, everybody's in there. So when you have a small menu, you get very, very good at what you do,
right?
And very specific. And then customer appetite and demand.
Instead
you're
of
really
breadth.
good at it. So, and you're a product that your partners consume, right? They use the product, right? I'm not just a member; I'm a user, right? So there you go. How are you guys finding innovation once you have hit the reduction in logging cost? Because you said it cost was going up, but capacity wasn't. So you start seeing SSD drives and they got bigger and faster and cheaper, and people ingested more and more and more only because of capacity, but the cost didn't go down. So how do you guys are finding innovation? How are you finding new problems to solve? Because I think one of the biggest things was finding how to get it there. Now that you get it there, what's the next big thing for you guys?
Yeah, it's interesting because what we've been able to find is that there's different kind of challenges that we can help address. So what we've been talking a lot about is the flagship product called Stream, right? And that's what does a lot of the routing and collection of the data, and it'll do that kind of normalization and enhancement and optimization, all that. But there's also other problems that, because of where we sit in the enterprise, we see, and we've been able to deliver solutions. So for example, there are these endpoints that are sending data into like Sentinel or whatever event management system you're talking about. And there's a variety of agents that have been loaded onto those machines, right? So now you've got this agent sprawl problem on these devices that are sending. Wouldn't it be nice if you could actually just have one agent on there that doesn't care where you're sending it? It's not predisposed for any one format or any one destination. Well, that's a little something called Cribl Edge. And so Edge is essentially an agent that can be put on these devices and send data in. So we've actually seen, thousands of forwarders from other vendors get retired because they don't want to be married to any one vendor. That's one of the things that we provide customers, is that choice to be able to say, hey, look, we're not going to put it in any Cribl format. There's no such thing. Other vendors like to do that, and that's part of how they've kept customers, locked in a way. But we're all about, giving customers choice and freedom on that front. Then when you think about, okay, I handled these agent challenges, we've sent the data through Stream. Now it's in a different destination. Maybe it's in, Azure Blob Storage. Maybe it's in Sentinel. Maybe it's in wherever. Wouldn't it be nice if I could search that in place and not have to go through an indexing scenario or whatever? We can actually render search, and that's something called Cribl Search. And then those are a couple of the big ones. We've actually started to lean in on. We announced Copilot, which is something to help organizations build searches. So using AI for that. To make it a little easier and bring down that barrier to entry and make it just simpler. It'll suggest, potential dashboard panels based on the data set you were just working with. Really intuitive stuff. And, let me ask Cam if you'd like to follow up and kind of double click on any of the different products I just touched on.
Yeah, there's 2 points I want to make. The first one is, while we did help customers kind of reduce the amount of data they're sending to destinations, the reality is most customers still had a ton of data sitting in the sidelines that they still needed to send. So yeah, you may have reduced the number of DNS events you're sending in, but at the end of the day, you had proxy logs, you had endpoint logs, you had all these other data sources that still needed to go into your analytics platform. And now you're giving a higher variety of events. So being able to spot the threat vector and all that stuff is a lot easier when you have more data points coming in. And that's what we've effectively done. And also, you had a lot of people that are security folks that are doing data plumbing. And we reduced that burden off of them and now put it down to like a tier 1 organization that you can automate. You can get it so that you can make it easier to onboard data sources. What if the application team didn't have to talk to the security folks to onboard their application logs? What if they could do it themselves and all you had to do is approve a Git commit? I mean, that's nirvana almost. And that's exactly what we started building. So we have that capability to make it way easier for people to start just getting the right data in, making sure they're not overloading or overwhelming their systems of record or systems of analysis. And then on top of that, we start innovating. So Cribl Edge, Cribl Search, and then we recently announced Cribl Lake. And Cribl Lake is actually pretty cool because, yeah, it's easy to set up an object store. Just try it. And sure enough, you have to run into permission problems and this and that, and how are you going to get the role to do, and all kinds of other stuff that happens around just building a simple object store. And here, Cribl Lake enables that capability so that the user, again, going back to the user experience, they can select the Cribl Lake that they want to build. They can select the retention period. They can select so many little options that make it dead simple for them to start building and putting data into a lake. So we've started reducing a lot of these barriers and making it a lot easier. And this is where our secret sauce is. We're making the hard problems easy. And so doing that at a very, very iterative rate.
And
So
it,
you
well,
said,
in terms,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm writing
so we're
questions.
so eager. Like, it's
I
fascinating.
love it.
So in terms of that customer journey, brass tacks, what does that look like? The end user empowerment and education. I know that there's so much content, so much material. Is it self-serve? Do they have to be activated individually and like, oh, this is what we want to do, so now I'm going to consume it? Or does Cribl in fact provide that support and then shepherd them through that journey, really kind of focused on where they are again and where they want to be?
Yeah, so we have free certification that's out there. The customers can, download the product. They can spin up a sandbox for free and work through getting certified, and that'll make them dangerous with regard to understanding how it all comes together. And so, it's oftentimes we'll start off in security use cases. It's quite often where we land.
Yeah.
But then what happens is other organizations within the enterprise see the benefits that security is getting from the tooling, and now they're like, wait a minute, I want to throw some of my data in there. I got this other use case over here. And that's when we branch off and we're onto the IT ops side of the house and app management and different areas like that. So when we say we do IT and security, it's very true. I'd say more often than not, though, that we start in security, but it's not because that's where we, solely where we focus. That just tends to be the I don't know, the easiest place for people to bring us in. Cam, what do you think?
That's also where the pain's the biggest too. So I really do think that the way that we've structured our education and how we can get someone to go through the process, it's very, for me, for example, I get thrown into a problem. I don't get the luxury of being able to read the docs before and see how everything goes. It's basically like Ed, when he was working on his car, you kind of have to pull up YouTube, be like, oh, so how do I do this? And I just tactically go and do that one feature function in the product. The cool thing about our sandbox environment is that you can say, hey, look, I just want to know, how do I stream data to an S3 bucket? Or how do I read data from the S3 bucket? How do I do these little tactical little things that I can actually do on my own? And sure enough, you start to build a cadence. You say, okay, I fixed that, I did that. And before you know it, you can go get fully certified. You can become a CCOE, you can become, an admin, you can be an engineer. And a lot of these, actually funny thing, we saw a lot of job postings are actually asking for certifications around Cribl, which is, by the way, it's a free certification. So go get it. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. And you get to see how the product works. It's a fully featured product. The other thing we haven't mentioned yet is that it's free up to a terabyte of data per day. So you can go sign up for our cloud instance, get it running, get your lab instrumented, start sending it in. I have my lab sending my pfSense logs through it. So it's a really, really cool product because you can actually play with it and actually use it before you run into any kind of limits.
Yeah, we actually did a webinar with Microsoft, and Rolls-Royce was the customer. I think we've heard of that car manufacturer, low end. Just kidding. So yeah, no, and what they were talking a lot about just using the product to get data in and really get visibility. Visibility is an important thing that customers are really, really loving us for, because before what they were doing is they were just blindly sending data across and not really knowing what was in it. And there was no opportunity to do any level of optimization. And so they're really appreciating how we've turned on the lights for them. And now they can see.
Well, I got something I want to post. We have listeners that if we won't be provocative and shock treatment, we got Lassie Linder, Cicely. You said, so when is Microsoft going to buy Cribl? I don't know. I don't know. I would say that before you commit anything, Ray and I have a couple of pennies. We like to bid on that bid. I got a couple of dollars. I can beat the case. See. You guys are right on point to all the reasons that I've heard customer engagement say why they use this product, right? It solves what they deem a simple problem with a simple answer. And sometimes it solves a hard problem, which is often processed with a simple answer. But you gave me a bunch of stuff. So I'm writing down one thing we want to go back here is I want to talk about, because it seems like this is the buzzword for everybody. You threw out AI and you threw out Copilot. So we all know that, when it comes to the word Copilot, the company up in Washington seems to be the people that say they coin the phrase, but a Copilot is just a pronoun for something that you do, right? So is your Copilot in conjunction with Microsoft, or is it your own Copilot product?
So it's in conjunction with, and the system behind it basically allows you to really just ask questions about Cribl. So I actually use it. I hate regular expression. Just don't want to do it. Why not get AI to do it for me? So asking, hey, I have this field, how do I extract it? How do I do something? It'll give me the answer, a good enough answer that I can play off of and learn and iterate to get what I need. So it literally is a co-pilot in the product that allows you to kind of, get stuff done more efficiently without having to go, streaming through docs to find the exact answer. It just kind of puts it there for you. And what Aldo alluded to earlier, our search language is Custo based. So it'll also help build a query that you can put a natural language query together and then spit it out as Custo and now go query what you're looking for.
Yeah. If you don't know anything about this show, our second language on the show is KQL. Rod Trent, really accomplished authors, written at least 2 books on KQL, if not more. Literally dozens, if not, dozens of KQL, seminars and stuff like that. And so we speak KQL around here, big time. Now, that's interesting that you have the Copilot. So you guys have created a prompt library of sort to be able to grab, or do you guys have the prompts that you use that you host on your site somewhere, so that when someone's in Copilot for 365, I know that we talk about a lot of Copilot for security on here, but you guys are talking about Windows Copilot and Copilot for 365. I'll assume that the Copilot is in the latter, the 365 RAM or the Windows RAM. Because I'm not quite seeing. I guess I'm here. I can just say try it out. So I'm looking at it on the screen, and blah 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 blah. Okay, you guys are just running an overlay on top of it. All right, that's cool. Being able to come in and take advantage of stuff that's already there to make it easy and then spit it out in KQL, that helps, because if you're working with Sentinel, your second language is KQL. If you're working with ADX, or you work with any other stuff really for hunting and querying in Microsoft, you KQLing, right? Advanced hunting. I have one more question. I see Ray's jumping in the bit to ask one. Is Cribl Lake, where is this lake hosted? Is your own data lake?
Good question. So initially, it's going to be our own data lake. So it's basically hosted in our SaaS offering. But the future iterations of this is going to be bring your own lake. So giving the customer the ability to host their own S3 bucket or Azure Blob Storage or self-hosted, and putting the controls around it using the Cribl Lake capabilities.
Oh, okay. All right. Just passing it through. All right. Being able to do it. Because I was wondering, I'm like, okay, is this a partnership thing with some cloud provider or some other data center, but you're going to do it yourself and then refine it and then be able to put it out on top of whatever someone wants to use. All right. That's simple. See, simplicity makes you hit 100 million for fastest. That's how you do it, right? You go that way. Right. You had a question. You're doing that thing with your hands when you're plotting evil.
Well, it's a tick. Well, no, it's not the tism, Ed. But it's, I'm hearing about the great power behind Cribl, right? I'm very curious if you can share with me a real world success story, like a turnaround for a customer. Like, what is the most interesting customer situation where you're like, wow, they went from here to there, and that even boggled your mind?
Got a few of them. I mean, the good news is we do document a lot of these, so we actually have them on our site. So I won't mention those because you can go read them yourself or see them yourself. There's a few of them that I had one customer that they had a rather large deployment of another SIM, and they had a lot of this data stored in just standard EBS volumes. So their total bill monthly was something to the tune of like $200,000 a month. It was something ridiculous. And so they told they were trying to procure Cribl just to remove the data from those EBS volumes to make their life a lot easier. And they were like, I forgot how much the cost of Cribl was going to be, but it was a significantly less amount. And so our champion called their procurement team, was like, look, every day we don't buy Cribl, we're blowing through thousands of dollars, millions of dollars in a year. So why don't we just help us buy? And sure enough, that was a compelling enough resource or reason to go and purchase Cribl. So that one was one. The other one was another company that had three security engineers that were literally doing data plumbing. They were sitting here getting data from source to destination, and they're able to get those 3 engineers rehired as actual like SOC analysts and doing work that they were like hired to do originally, without having to put out, go hire a new person, ramp them up, and everything of that sort. So I mean, this really transformed their just day-to-day operations, made them more efficient, made them more scalable. So those are 2 very easy use cases. I'm sure there are plenty more, but
yeah, I mean, one I would just mention, Cam, is it doesn't represent one customer; it represents many, and that's one of our partners, Security Risk Advisors, SRA. We love the folks at SRA, and they've built their own managed service that Sentinel is a core component of. And guess what they've built in there to feed Sentinel and to do the routing and everything? Of course, it's Cribl. So they've taken this out. There's a number of large organizations who have gone that way with the combination of the 3 of us. So the whole Better Together story with SRA, Cribl, and Microsoft is being realized out there in practice. And so, we actually signed a partnership agreement with Microsoft just a month or 2 ago. And through that process, we did a number of reference calls with Microsoft so that y'all could hear from customers, like, how is this really working? Is there a place for this? Why do you need it? All these kinds of things. And SRA actually was one of those reference accounts because they could talk to several examples of where these products deployed together represented a best-in-class deployment. So,
yeah, I see how you guys do it, but I will sometimes wonder, and this may be a secret sauce question, is that you're running some stuff you said, and I'll ask this question only because you volunteered the information about Cribl Lake. It seems like you're doing a blend, that you're running some of the stuff in somebody's data center, if not your own. Are you guys, agnostic about who you use, and or is your data center for what you're doing for own hosted products private? Because I've had some customers say, well, where are they running it? And I'm like, my default answer, I said, well, I assume they're running it in their infrastructure that they've done. But, the thing about running your own data center seems to be, I don't know what the word for it, the old school. So how are you guys doing, if you can say?
Yeah, we can definitely say. So we're primarily hosted on AWS. However, the product is actually built to be in a really, truly hybrid environment. So if you think about how Cribl is architected, at least the Cribl Stream part of the product, you have this notion of a control plane, and then you have a notion of the data plane. The control plane is where your leader node lives, and where you basically make your configuration changes and get pushed down to the data plane where the data gets processed. Now, the data plane can live anywhere, whether it's on-prem for the customer, in their cloud, in our cloud. It doesn't matter, because that's where the data goes to get processed and then sent out to the destinations. The leader, the control plane, that too can live anywhere, but that's primarily where our SaaS comes into play. So for us, we basically host our leader node in AWS, and then the worker nodes and all the data tier can live in any hosted or self-hosted environment. I think we also just announced our intention to go into Azure Cloud for that data tier.
Yeah, okay. And that sort of goes into line where I thought you guys were hosting sort of that node, but it's going to be a huge migration effort when Microsoft buys you. You got to get all the stuff on AWS. So we do have a couple of questions. Andrew McCollum is on our thing. He's one of our active listeners, always putting the good questions in. I'll give you the first question he got was, is Cribl going to support managed identities instead of App AD plus secrets? Well, I'm sorry, that's Lassie Saline.
So yeah, that's a very good question. Obviously, the way that we're kind of going towards our overall kind of identity management, we're trying to build what's best in practice or best in breed for the appropriate technology. So I personally don't know where our stance is on the App ID plus secret, or at least moving to the managed identities. I know that we do that on the AWS side of the house. So we have like a role that you can assume the role and go down that path. If customers ask for it, the one thing that we are very driven on is customer satisfaction and making sure that customers are always front and center of our decisions. So if customers ask for this, don't be surprised if we start going down the path and making it happen.
And rest assured, to the question, and Andrew, I can get to yours, that more people are still on this way of doing it rather than to manage identities, right? So you got to drive the need to be able to do it because customers in the business of staying in business and getting the work done, and the old thing, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But we're starting to see that it's going to change because of some of the exploits and some of the way adversaries are doing these things, right? And stop doing it like an app ID plus that is just is basically me with a password, right? But if you're going to manage identities, you get it. So service accounts, they're going away in the cloud of a sort. So I'll go ahead and put the question in because now he has 3 questions. So let's go ahead and get with the first one. He says, so does Cribl cover how to integrate Cribl with Sentinel, my scenarios, and MSP who might consider this? I think you guys have already answered this, right? You guys do have a module that says how to stand up Sentinel.
So we also have a blog post that I can actually post somewhere where it actually walks you through the process of enabling and integrating, getting data from any custom source into Azure or Microsoft Sentinel.
Okay, yeah, and I've seen it there before because that's where I went when I was trying to learn the product. I went and looked at some of the stuff that you had, and it's updated. One thing I give you guys, it ain't dated 2019, and well, it's not dated 2021. The stuff gets updated, so it's relevant. I don't know who stays up on top of that. So the next question would be, he had number 2. Want to make sure we get through them all. Is for the compliance reg, what would Cribl be hosting client data for regulated environments? Which is sort of along the line why I asked that question, even though I hadn't written it away. Yeah.
No, great question. So there are a couple of things that we actually do with the data. So first and foremost, we're not in a scenario where you have highly regulated data. Customers actually host that data tier on their own infrastructure, so in their own boundary. The second thing that we can do is we can actually mask or redact data that's flowing through Cribl Stream. So say, for example, a customer is in a highly regulated environment and they want to share data with an application team because they're having a firewall issue or something's happening, but they need to redact highly sensitive data that's flowing through. Cribl can actually redact that data so they can share that stream of data with that downstream customer. And they can say, look, we see the problem, we see the issue, but we're not seeing the sensitive data that's also there. So we have plenty of kind of controls around the way that Cribl is also deployed. We also have a reference architecture, which I will also share here. I'll post it in this comment section. So that reference architecture it shows you this capability of having worker groups. So a worker group is basically a set of workers that sit inside of a particular boundary. So if you think about it, if you're highly regulated and say, for example, GDPR for Europe or EMEA, where you need to have data processed by one particular within one country, this allows you to just host that data within that one country, or again, within that particular boundary. So we're putting guardrails around where the data is processed, who has access to it. So you have a rich role-based access control that allows you to make sure that people that have access to that particular worker group are allowed to, and they're not, crossing the streams unintended. So there's a lot of other kind of capabilities we have, but those are kind of the first front of mind around this regulated area.
Yeah, and I think you sort of answered the question to his third question. Can you specify, if, for example, Azure over AWS, and I think for client data, and that's going to come, right? You'll be able to say, client make a choice in the onboarding criteria. What would you like this preference? If you got a customer that has, really deep AWS skills, why would I put it in Azure, right? I'm going to keep it somewhere where I'm going to do it and be able to do it. So while we talk one of the big 3, what about GCP?
Yeah. So, there are customers that are, they have a huge commit with GCP and they want to start sending data into the GCP ecosystem, whether that be their object store, Google SecOps, which is the former Chronicle solution. Yeah. Customers have the freedom to do that, and Cribl does support being able to send data to those destinations. We can also read data from them. So if they're publishing to PubSub, or if they're sending, again, back to their object store, we can read from and write to. So we're completely agnostic when it comes to kind of like the big picture. And this is where customers really get a lot of value out of Cribl, because now they can go test out, hey, I want to see, is Sentinel where I want to send my data, or do I want to send it to Chronicle, or do I want to keep it in my legacy SIM? I believe there's a report done recently where people were asked that are looking to go to another SIM, hey, what do you want to do? And a majority of them are just going to stick with their existing SIM, because it's a process to be able to shim data, send it over here. Do I have like for like? And I always tell people, look, your best way of doing something is maybe augmenting your SIM. So maybe you have a legacy SIM that's sitting on prem, but you want to go to the cloud. Why don't you pick a couple data sources and start sending them up to the cloud and see if it makes sense to have that? And if it does, peel them away from your legacy SIM and start using that. And then we can help you with that slow transition over, and then eventually the full migration over, and then just turn down that legacy SIM and use it for a gaming server or whatever.
Yeah, and I like you guys get accustomed to a place where they can make a decision.
Yeah.
Because if you want to migrate, we'll see. It may be too heavy of a lift. I may run on one dual SIMs, which I'm seeing a lot of that now. People are running multiple, long ingestion methodologies, right? And you guys give the ability for security to quit picking up the tab for other departments that decide they want to send everything there. And security got to pick up the tab, right? So, or the cloud infrastructure team is picking up the tab for security, because I've heard that a lot. And now you can quantify. All right, this is what you guys are bringing in. Would you bring this in if you had to pay for it? Oh no, we don't need it now. That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Right.
You got to pay for it.
Right.
Alligator arms.
Now get real short. Nobody's picking up the tab. Ray, did you have a question? Because I only got one more. I got a scenario I want to run by, see if they've ever encountered it.
I always have questions. And so what are you most excited about for the future of Cribl? Like top of mind, if you had a magic wand, what you can share at least, what's next and what gets your motor revved?
I mean, for me, I think about just the customers, and we're just getting started. You know what I mean? There's still so many people that don't even know who we are yet. And we're making good headway, but it's still early innings here. So I'm just excited at what that opportunity looks like for us. And our engineering teams are fantastic. So they deliver stuff that works. And I'm always excited to see, what's that next problem that is a, one that plays nicely with what we already do, that can solve a different set of challenges and make customers that much, more delighted with us. So, and look, the Microsoft relationship, it's a couple months old. I know I'm excited to see where this is going to go, because we know that we've already got a lot of customers in common. I was looking at the, pipeline of opportunities that involve Sentinel, and it's vast. So I'm excited at just, how many problems, how many customers we can delight together. How about you, Cam?
Well, for me, I think you're absolutely right. The opportunity ahead is massive. And where we're at right now in the company, I don't know when we get acquired by Microsoft. I really do think that there's so much really interesting things that we're tackling and problems that we're solving, that it's really great to go talk to at our user conference and at other conferences. People just say, I just wanted to come by and say thanks for building a great product. And it's fun to hear that, and fun to talk to them, and fun to engage with partners and customers. So,
yeah, as far as that, we love to. We missed CribbleCon this year, but in the future, if you guys are doing something, if you love for us to come to one of your conferences and do the show live, we'll definitely do it and get some people to come by. We love sponsorships here.
We'll be at Ignite, so just
we'll be there.
Ignite, yeah, that's in November, right? We'll see.
Yep.
I don't know if we're presenting this year, so you may see the four of us there. And are you guys a Microsoft partner?
Yes, we are.
So Inspire may be something also, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I just had to ask. I don't know. Ray, you was about to say something, and I
love it. You're like, are you? Full well. I love it. I love it.
I don't know.
I love it.
So I tend to go look at companies, and the first thing I look at is how robust their support mechanism in their website. You guys seem to be pretty good. And I look at number two. You can give all the hype that you want, but I go look at your career site, and you guys are hiring through the union. There you are.
Yes.
So, it used to be a negative thing because of the .com stuff, but this is strong hiring, right? And this is a very diverse set of skills that you're needing, right? You're not just hiring worker bees, you're hiring enablement bees, to do this. So it seems like what you are saying is in line to what you're saying you're doing, right? Because I'm looking at the career site, I'm seeing all type of stuff in public sector. I'm seeing commercial sales, finance, IT security. So you guys are getting your things out there, and I'm seeing multiple countries, UK, Canada, of course, the US, right? You are proper with Poland. Very good. It's very cool to see what you guys are doing. So, you're not hiring because you just want to get people off the street. You're hiring because the growth is there. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but as we get ready to end the show, you guys get to close out. What would you like for us to know, and our users and listeners to know? And this is going to be downloaded several times, so 1,000 times actually. What is something people may not know, or you want them to know about Cribl?
I mean, I would just, challenge everyone to spin up a sandbox and play with it. Like, just get your hands dirty with it. I mean, I'm a certified engineer, the user level one for Cribl. And I took it, and it was incredibly well done. There's a bunch of sandboxes along the way during that certification process, so it kind of forces your hand to actually dig into a sandbox. But it's fantastic. And look, when you think about the transformation that's going on here, where organizations are looking to go to Sentinel and do things along those lines and augment what they've got going today. We are an enabler for that. We are an accelerator to that. And customers are proving it every day. So there's a question about how to get in contact for an MSP, for example. In that particular one, you can send an email to msp@cribl.io. And that will allow you to go ahead and get in touch with folks that look after the MSP part of the business. And I mean, get close to this tech, because it's going to become part of the fabric of organizations, IT and security stacks. Cam, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think that I would challenge a lot of your viewers to go just download and play. Not even have to download, just sign up for the Cribl Cloud instance, cribl.cloud, and go play with it. I'm guaranteed that you will find value even in your own little lab or your test environment. And it could lead to bigger things for you. I can't tell you how many customers I ran into that this was a reason that they got promoted, because they were able to solve a problem that the company had. And they did it because they installed Cribl, and they solved one problem, another one. And before you know it, they were the Cribl person. And they were the ones that were, front and center helping the company do the right thing. So,
yeah. And I've seen a lot of like SE types. I think of pre-sales engineers that cover like Sentinel or whatever. I've seen folks like that building us into their own lab environments to become part of a standard POC build, so that when they're helping customers do proof of concepts, Cribl just allows the POCs to go faster and allows them to show value that much quicker. So there's different ways that you can bake us into your go forward endeavors. And we're super happy to help in whatever way we can.
And you're right. In my demo lab, I had it there as one of the scenarios.
Yeah, so
and you're safe because you're not going to disrupt the deal, because you're not going to steal the deal. You may make them add a couple of things to it, and then I can say, hey, let me get somebody on the phone. And then they'll walk you through what I just showed you and how this will maybe help your problem. If you want to get promoted, solve the problem that the customer the company didn't know they had. And the way you do that is by showing, how much I saved you. We didn't know where you're like, yeah. And what you can do with that savings. I like promotions. Well, Andrew and Cam, thank you so much. You really filled in some knowledge gaps I had about the product. I think you give enough information for everyone to want to go in and do their own research. It's cribl.io for those who will get lost. It's not cribl.com, it's cribl.io. Hey, what was that email address again? Was it MSP or MSSP?
That was MSP. Either one of the scenarios, just MSP@cribl.io, and we're happy to reply. My email is aldo@cribl.io, ALDO. So feel free to ring me up if there's anything I can do to help. I look after the go-to-market between Cribl and Microsoft, so happy to support whatever needs people have out there.
You guys have been awesome. It's if you guys make more innovations and everything else, just let us know. Give us a call. We'll get you back on. We'll sit here and talk it out, see what you guys are doing. And like I said, I don't know if I actually will be at Ignite. I'm not super important like Ray, who gets invited months in advance.
Okay.
It's generally me show up the day before and I have to ride on the wing of the plane to get there because they have no budget left. But that's okay. Thanks everyone. Thanks everyone for the show. We're back next Monday. Come in, have fun,
Thank you.
do
Thanks
things.
for having us.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.